There's a force operating in your life right now that most people never consciously recognize. It does not announce itself, it leaves no obvious footprints, but scientists, historians, and behavioral researchers across centuries have documented it with remarkable consistency. What you put into the world has a way of returning to you, not as magic, not as superstition, but as something deeply wired into how human beings actually function. Think about the oldest human communities ever studied. Anthropologists who examined early tribal societies discovered something striking. Groups that survived and thrived over generations were not the strongest or the most aggressive. They were the ones with the most developed systems of reciprocity. Give to the group sustains you. Neglect the group, and slowly, invisibly, the group stops sustaining you back. Long before anyone wrote it down, human beings were already living by this pattern. What early tribes discovered by necessity, modern psychology has now confirmed in laboratories. When people receive kindness or genuine effort from another person, something activates in the brain that creates a nearly automatic pull toward returning that energy. It is called the reciprocity effect, and it is one of the most replicated findings in behavioral science. You do not have to demand anything back. The exchange often happens on its own, sometimes months later, in ways you would never predict. But here is where it gets more interesting. The return is rarely equal. It tends to grow. Researchers studying social networks found that acts of generosity do not simply bounce back to the original giver. They ripple outward, creating a web of effects that circles back to its source in amplified form. The same is true in reverse. Hostility, dishonesty, and neglect move through social systems the same way, spreading and looping back with compounding force. The world turns out to be a surprisingly accurate mirror. Ancient agricultural societies built entire philosophies around this observation. They noticed that the farmer who plants carelessly, in poor soil, without tending the crop, harvests nothing. But the farmer who prepares the ground, chooses the right seed, and works consistently, reaps far more than what was planted. That metaphor appeared independently in Mesopotamian texts, ancient Indian scriptures, early Chinese philosophy, and the oral traditions of sub-Saharan Africa. Cultures separated by oceans and centuries arrived at the same conclusion. When societies with no contact with each other observe the same truth across thousands of years, that truth is likely embedded in something fundamental about human nature itself. This is not spiritual coincidence. This is convergent evidence. Modern neuroscience is now explaining the mechanism. When you consistently act with honesty and genuine investment, your brain reinforces those behaviors through reward pathways. Over time, people around you begin to trust you and advocate for you in rooms you are not even in. Your reputation becomes a living extension of yourself, working on your behalf long after any individual interaction is ended. The effort you put in today does not disappear. It compounds quietly, like interest in an account you almost forget you opened. The flip side is equally real. People who cut corners, who treat others as temporary tools, who invest nothing into the relationships around them, often cannot understand why doors keep closing. The answer is usually found by tracing backward, what was planted and when. The return on what you put out is almost never immediate, which is exactly what makes the pattern so easy to miss. When the return takes months or years, people stop connecting it to its cause. They assume luck. But researchers who tracked individuals across decades found that what people consistently gave to their work and relationships was one of the strongest predictors of outcomes later in life. The delay is not a flaw in the system. The delay is the system working exactly as designed. What you plant, quietly, consistently, without fanfare, is already determining what you will one day stand in the middle of. The field you are walking through today was shaped long before you arrived in it, and the one you will walk through tomorrow is being decided right now, in choices so ordinary they barely feel like choices at all. That is the hidden force. It was never hidden. You were just not watching closely enough.